Hi there. As the republication of my game Inchon comes closer, I've been thinking about some things, and thinking can be dangerous for some of us. Inchon, of course, was my first game design going back 35 years when you could also think of about 20 pounds and all my hair ago, uh, besides the number of years. Um, That reminds me of how it's a whole other world in terms of game design. Way back in the so called golden age, it seemed that everything was done on pen and paper with a typewriter. Computers were not a thing until the 80s. So the games we all love were really done manually. I really couldn't design Inchon or publish Line of Departure until the invention and the introduction of the personal computer. Originally, it was far too expensive. When I did my master's thesis, completed in 1985, a computer that would have been useful would have been close to $5,000 in mid 80s money, and also would not have had the online connections that we take for granted today. So it wouldn't have done a bit of good when it comes to research. By 1990 91, when I was working on Inchon, I did have a personal computer. It was a very early IBM clone, as they called them then, with an 8088 processor, really first generation PC, that originally did not have a hard drive on it. The hard drive came later. I bought that separately with a copy of not Windows, WordPerfect 5.1 that was sold to me by my then brother-in-law. Um, and that was my first hard drive and my first dedicated word processing software. And that made Line of Departure possible and also game design. I did the rules on WordPerfect, and it made it a lot easier to change things when necessary. The same went for charts. Most of them were done on WordPerfect, as I recall. And it's not that it made it easier, it made game design possible. But there was still an awful lot of manual work. The map for Inchon was all drawn by hand. The counters were done by hand. I submitted a unit manifest to um, Command Magazine with big versions of the counters on it, all hand drawn, double checked manually. And there was an awful lot of manual work to it. Even if the rules were computerized, I still had to print them out. I used a dot matrix printer, noisy and slow. But it was called a hybrid between computerized and manual. But the hard part was rarely manual. And it stayed that way too. When I did Britain Stands Alone, the process was very similar. Um, that map was done manually and then redone, with greatly enhanced by the developer. So we both ended up doing a lot of hand drawing on it. I knew from the designer of Inchon, Paul D'Angel, that he did beautiful playtest copies, all done by hand. All of his counters were crafted beautifully, much better than I could have done. The maps that he produced and my friends and I play tested on were absolutely gorgeous. As I recall, our wargame group play tested Chaco and the Tet Offensive. Um, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work on Paul's part, just making up these playtest kits. Now, as a developer myself, I approached it fairly similarly with hand done counters and hand drawn maps for playtest copies. And I got to admit, it was frustrating. I wasn't real good at it. Art, I can do art, as if you may recall the first edition of Rommel at Gazala. I did all the art on that, but it's not my strong suit, shall we say. There's an old Irish saying that it's very popular in my family: to each man to his own trade. And the artwork was not really my trade. Um, I could be passable, but not a whole lot better than that. And I left that to the much better professional artists to turn out a finished product. But the approach was generally manual. And it can be very frustrating too when you go to all the work of producing a playtest kit and you send it out and you never hear from the testers again. All that work, you might as well, as my grandfather used to say, I'll just throw it down the sewer. It was kind of like that. You invested time, you invested effort, and nothing. So I really came to appreciate too the people who really did play tests and could turn in reports. But it was an awful lot of work. Now, when I did Rommel at Gazala, the first edition that I self published, that was the first one that was really 100% computerized, going back to 2006. I used CorelDRAW, which is my go to choice now for graphics. I used that to make up the map and make up the counters and some of the illustrations for the rule book and the battle manual I did myself with Corel. I really like CorelDRAW. I also like the Adobe products, but I don't use them anymore because they're subscription based, and I don't think that the cost is really cost effective now. I don't want to be churning out money to a software company. Especially, I have a bad taste with them because I bought an academic copy of the Adobe Graphics Suite years ago, and it's a perpetual license, and I can no longer activate it on new computers nor eliminate it from their website. That it's just not honored anymore. So yeah, Adobe, I'm angry at you. Go screw yourselves. So I'm going with Corel for the moment. And if I need something else, I use GIMP. It's free, it's open source, and nobody's going to hit me up for money that I haven't already spent. So, Romlick is all starting in 2006. The first edition of that, which hopefully you can't get anymore because Lock and Load is publishing a much more attractive edition. That was my art done entirely on a computer. The rules and battle manual and the charts were all done on a computer. That was my first introduction to that form of game design and production. And the second one that went that way was the Sedova campaign for turning point simulations on the campaign in Bohemia leading to Königgrätz or Sedova, your choice, as one of the decisive battles of history. Again, that was all done on the computer. And that one too, we reached a point that the computer and the internet became major assets for research. Prior to this, I had to rely on my own library almost entirely, the local library, interlibrary loan. Now, though, with the internet, it's much easier to do research. And research is something I hope to continue with on my videos here. But we take it for granted that you can go online and find sources, whether it's web pages, whether it's from archive.org, I also have access to online libraries at the University of Arizona Global Campus and American Public University System. So that's something that was not available even for people who had um, jobs in academia that were, for most of them, until recently. That libraries, college libraries, have gone a lot more into online resources. So I have my professional employee access to both of them. So these are all things that people coming into game design now might take for granted. Being an old fart of 64 years, closer to death than anything else, um, I know I'm over several different hills. I appreciate this because I didn't grow up with it. I didn't get a computer until I was in my early 30s. So, those of you who have grown up with computers, who have grown up with the internet, and have always had it as a resource for your game design and development research, you guys are lucky. And now you can do everything online. And you don't have to churn out playtest kits and glue stuff together and send it out and hope that somebody might actually respond. And that gets to the other point too, that I'm considering, if I hope to have enough time to go back to game design. I really want to. I have ideas. Some of them might actually be valid. Who knows? But I would like to go back to game design when I can clear my decks as far as work and house maintenance and just being a responsible semi adult goes. And this goes to the next step when it comes to computerized work and the internet, and that's Vassal. In the last several years, my friend Alan Snyder and I have been playtesting games for GMT. We playtested the new edition of France 40, also the upcoming Italy 43, from both of them designed by Mark Simonich. We worked on uh, the Deluxe Thunderbolt, which was probably going to be Richard Burke's last game. We play tested the Carthaginian invasion of Spain for that one. Um, and how we do this is on Vassal. It's necessary because we don't live next door to each other. Alan is retired to northern Thailand. I'm in northern Allegheny County. We do this twice a week. We have two gaming sessions. We also manage to talk on the phone for the whole time, like 2 to 2.5 hours each night using Facebook Messenger, which is a great alternative to a regular phone line and a bill that would bankrupt either one of us. So here again, the internet has made the playtesting and the playing possible. And I'm probably doing more wargaming now than I have at any time in my previous life. But Vassal is, to me, that is going to be the way to playtest games and the way to produce copies worthy of submission. I will still do the maps and the counters with graphic software, especially CorelDRAW and Adobe. You rip me off once, you're not going to do it again. But I will still use CorelDRAW, maybe GIMP, to do the basic graphics and then build a Vassal module for them. The rules will be submitted to playtesters in PDF form, most probably, with examples of play and graphics, again, from Corel. And this way, too, I can make one playtest kit, send it out to playtesters who, if they ghost me, I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose any extra time putting something together and putting postage on an envelope and maybe paying a lot to the postal service for that. A couple bucks to send out a playtest kit really isn't that much. not that much of a pavaretto, but it adds up when you've got several of them. I don't have to worry about that now. And all the play testing can be done on Vassal. It can be done without regard to distance. None of the stuff, oh, my buddy's going to be in town next week. Oh, no, we won't. We can't play test now. No. Vassal makes that rather moot. You can do it across continents. You can do it across the international date line. Heck, we do it twice a week. It's possible because we're doing it. So, with all that in mind, any game designs that I do in the future will involve a Vassal module that would be submitted to the publisher along with a PDF or Word file with the rules and charts and player's aids and possibly other stuff and graphics that I've done myself, and hopefully a real artist can turn into something presentable and commercial. But I see Vassal as essential to the design, development, and playtesting process, and then to the submitting it to the publisher, and hopefully in the future too to enable players to enjoy the game regardless of distance. So this is what I'm seeing now. We started at the beginning in the 70s, the 60s and 70s with everything done by hand. If you look at something like 1914, my first war game published by Avalon Hill, Jim Dunnigan designed that by hand, and all the counters are really drawn by hand. The map is obviously done by hand with hexes laid out with a ruler. It doesn't make it a bad map, it just makes it manually done. No hand of a computer back in 1968. We've gone from that through doing basically everything on a computer, including the research now. And producing it with into PDFs and basic graphics files, and now Vassal. So the whole manual wargaming thing now is based on a process that is no longer manual. And this is what I intend to be doing as soon as I can clear some time and actually take the ideas that have been percolating in here and make them into a finished form. I'm not going to say put it on paper. Probably the first time it goes onto paper is when the publisher sends it off to the printer. But those are just my thoughts on how game design has evolved over the years in terms of a physical to a virtual process. And that's the past, present, and future of our craft. And that concludes this evening's installment of the Line of Departure channel. And I want to thank you for watching the video. And please feel free to share it with your friends, share the channel, and subscribe. Everything like that helps. It's free. And there will be more material coming up in the next few days, the next few weeks, and the rest of the year and beyond. So this is an ongoing project, and this is just the most recent part of it. So hope to hear from you, and please keep up the support and the attention. Thank you very much.